Hi, I'm Allison Ellis of Floral Artistry. Thanks for tuning in. I am talking about setting a minimum today. I think it's something that's really, really important for your event design business. And maybe you already have a minimum in place, but you struggle sometimes with how to communicate it to your customers or potential customers. Or perhaps you're sort of teetering on the edge of like knowing you need a minimum, but feeling afraid that you're going to turn people off if they know what your minimum is. So to that, I say, pshaw. Your minimum should exist, whether it's a flat out number for the weekend, like we need a $3,000 minimum to do a wedding, or whether it's a per item minimum. So, bridal bouquets are X amount, centerpieces are X amount, and we don't fall below this. This is the minimum we feel comfortable. At the very least, you need a minimum delivery, right? Like, this is the minimum I will charge for delivery. Flower shops do this successfully all the time. Flower shops have a minimum for in-town delivery, for out-of-town delivery, right? They have a price for what a little bud vase costs, and then they have a price for what a dozen roses costs, or something even more lush than that. They don't say, oh, well, our dozen roses are $75, but you only have 50. Let's reduce the minimum. That's not going to happen. You have to take less, right? So setting a minimum is for yourself it helps navigate really through these choppy waters of inquiries, because some inquiries are exciting and you cannot wait to potentially book that client. And some inquiries you just go, ugh, how do I reply to this person, because I can tell we're going to have a budget issue. So I think talking about budget, I've said this a million times, is so important to just not be afraid to talk about it. I don't go into a store having zero idea what I'm willing to spend. Your customers are not coming to you with zero idea of what this should cost. So it's really important for you to feel comfortable having the conversation. And for me, the way I've been navigating my minimum has changed throughout the years. And I think that's just part of business. In 14 years, I went from no minimum, and I used to do centerpieces for like $35, which is crazy to me now. I don't even know how I did it, but I always made money. I always made money. So I'm not lamenting those days. It's just for me, starting out 14 years ago, that's sort of like how it started. And then as time went on and I had more inquiries than I could really keep up with, in terms of like for the same day, right? Like I have to pick one of these weddings or two of these weddings in a weekend. I had to start putting a minimum out there. And that worked great. $3,000 minimum was great until it wasn't. And then people would see I had a $3,000 minimum or $3,500, I forget. But they would say, oh, that's what we want to spend. We want to spend your minimum. But they had a bigger wedding than a $3,000 or $3,500 budget could really accommodate. So the minimum, in my opinion, became arbitrary. It was an arbitrary number because for each event, I really have a different minimum. Now what I do is someone fills out my questionnaire, which is fairly lengthy because I really want to get to know what makes this person tick, what's their style, what are they really looking for their wedding, what flowers do they like, and what is their budget is a question I ask them. And people will answer very honestly, and some people really don't know, and that's fine. And some people answer honestly, and it is vastly too low, and I tell them what I think a reasonable budget for what they are looking for might be. So when someone tells me, I've said this before, but someone tells you how many centerpieces and how many bridesmaids, you can probably ballpark that wedding. You probably can, because the centerpieces are usually, unless people are doing a really over-the-top wedding with lots of ceremony decor and, floral installations, centerpieces are usually about half of the wedding budget. So if you have a general idea of how many centerpieces you need and then how many attendants, this year, everybody's got like 6 and 8 attendants. It is crazy. And not just this year, the past few years. But when someone has 2 attendants versus 8 attendants, there's a big impact on the budget. So for me, at this point, my minimum, like communicating my minimum, is based on each individual event, what they're telling me they need, and then I throw out a minimum. And if that works, we move forward with a proposal consultation, all that stuff. But I don't really look to have a whole consultation and proposal situation going out there without having some conversation about the budget or about what you think your minimum quote would be. So it's important for you and for your customers. So don't think of it as being like selfish or exclusive, or you're going to start turning people off if you're communicating to them what you really think it will be to pull off their event. And this is about pay to play, right? So if it's a holiday weekend and you are historically very busy on holiday weekends, maybe it's a slightly higher minimum. And not because you're selfish, but because you're paying staff to work on a holiday weekend, and probably more than one day of the holiday weekend. So you need to have a higher standard in order to make it worth your while and your staff's time, you know? So keep those things in mind and set a minimum, whether you publish it out loud on your website, like don't call me for less than 5,000, or you send people an itemized price sheet. This is bouquets, centerpieces, blah, 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 down the line, so they can kind of do the math themselves. Or you actually get some information from them and give them your bottom line ballpark estimate, and they can add on to it. It's just a matter of you setting what the rules are for your business, and a minimum is really important. So I hope you'll set a minimum, you'll stick with your minimum, and know that you are worth it, because you are. So keep doing great work, set a minimum, and move forward. Have a great rest of your season. Oh my gosh, it's about to get so busy over here. I can't wait. Have a great summer. I will see you again soon. Thanks for watching. I wasn't even supposed to be doing a video today, but I got blown off by a consultation that I was supposed to have this morning. It's a Sunday morning, by the way. Totally blown off from my phone consultation with a bride who is below